I died the day they chose me. The Emperor's angels descended upon our hive like a storm of gold and ceramite, their armor glinting under the harsh industrial lights. They did not speak of glory or honor. They spoke only of duty. We were not asked if we wished to serve the Imperium. Service is not a choice. It is the only purpose worth living for. Every day we think we are the same person, but in truth we die and are reborn constantly. As I stood there, trembling before the towering Space Marines, I felt the first tremors of my old self beginning to crumble. The boy I had been, scraping a meager existence in the underhive, was already fading like a half-remembered dream. They say a man can step into the same river twice, yet the water is never the same. So too it is with the self. Our memories, beliefs, and values are replaced over time, much like the planks of an ancient ship. We appear unchanged on the surface, but beneath, identity and memory are always shifting, always in flux. As the Space Marines herded us onto their Thunderhawk, I caught a final glimpse of the only home I had ever known. The spires of rusted metal reached desperately toward a sky none of us had ever seen. The acrid smoke that filled our lungs from birth, the constant drone of machinery that lulled us to sleep each night, these were not things of beauty, but they were mine. All that I had known, all that I would never see again. Major transformations are each a death of the self. Love, loss, parenthood, illness, all of these can shatter our perception of who we are. But none compare to the brutal metamorphosis of becoming a Space Marine. It is not a gradual growth, but a violent dissolution. Like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, the old self must literally die for the new to emerge. As we hurtled through the void towards our new life, I began to recognize the stages of my self's death. First came recognition, M&A, the stark realization that I had changed, that I could never go back to who I was. Then came resistance, the desperate attempt to cling to my old identity, to the familiar comforts of my past life. But resistance was futile. The Space Marines broke us down, body and soul. They remade us in fire and pain, replacing our weak flesh with superhuman strength. And as my body changed, so too did my mind. Old memories faded, replaced by new purpose, new loyalties. Finally came surrender. In the depths of my transformation, I accepted the void, allowing the new self to emerge. The boy from the underhive was gone, replaced by something greater, something terrible and glorious. Over a life, we leave behind many selves. Childhood, teenage years, young adulthood, all of these versions of us die, making way for the new. Yet we rarely mourn or grieve these past selves. Perhaps we should. For in becoming a Space Marine, I mourned not just my past, but all the possible futures that would never come to be. Sometimes we consciously kill a self through therapy, recovery, or spiritual awakening. But becoming a Space Marine is not a choice. It is a death sentence and a rebirth all at once. The new self is created not by us, but by the brutal training and genetic modification of the Adeptus Astartes. What survives across these transformations? In the depths of my pain and rebirth, I clung to two things. First, the pure awareness that sees all. First, the witness consciousness that remained even as my body and mind were remade. Second, compassion not just for others but for myself, for all the selves I had been and would become. I learned to hold identity lightly, knowing it was impermanent. As a Space Marine, I would live for centuries, moving through seasons like a great tree. Spring would bring renewal, summer stability, autumn wisdom, and winter the void of death. But each season would pass, each identity temporary. Memento mori of the self. Every version of you is temporary, so live it fully. This became my mantra as I embraced my new existence. I threw myself into training, into battle, into service to the Emperor. For what else was there to do in the face of such transformation? It takes courage to let go of outdated selves and step into new ones. But as a Space Marine, I had no choice. The old me was burned away in the fires of creation, leaving only ash and memory. Yet from that ash rose something greater, something beyond human. Every death of self is a gift. It makes growth possible. And oh, how I grew. My body became a weapon, my mind a fortress. I fought in battles across the stars, facing horrors that would have broken my old self in an instant. But I was no longer that weak child from the underhive. The final truth is this: we are not a fixed self, but a dance of death and rebirth. As I stand now, centuries old, I look back on all the selves I have been: the scared boy from the hive, the raw recruit, the battle brother, the veteran. Each one died so that the next could live. And so I continue, ever changing, ever dying, ever reborn. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And in war, we must constantly remake ourselves, shedding old identities like worn-out armor. We are the Space Marines, the angels of death. And in our service to the Emperor, we die 1,000 deaths, only to rise again, stronger than before. I am not the boy who was taken from the hive. That self is long dead. I am something more, something less, something other. I am a Space Marine, a servant of the Emperor, a weapon against the darkness. And I will continue to die and be reborn, for as long as there are enemies of mankind to fight. For in the end, that is all we are, a series of deaths and rebirths, each one bringing us closer to our true purpose. And in the service of the Emperor, there is no greater purpose than this.